Welcome to Renaissance Charge Videos. I'm Rick Friedrich, and today I want to talk about updates to what we're doing, the next meeting that we're doing, and miscellaneous items. So we're going to have a meeting in Fort Worth, Texas, right near the airport again. Not the same place, a little bit better place. And that will be on the 28th of February, the last day, which is Friday, and Saturday, March 1st. So it will be the usual type of meeting, which is very personal and small numbers so that we can really deal with each other one-on-one. And it will I'll be showing a new motor and some new maybe demonstrations. It will be slightly different than normal or the usual, and we'll get more into this newer schoolgirl kit and other things, and I will let you know more as we get closer to that date, especially those who register. So the question is, what's been happening? Why haven't I been around for a couple of years? And especially the last 6 months or so. Of course, very busy. And, well, for one, we had a fire that burned down one of our shops. It was a lightning storm. And it wasn't I did not own the shop. Otherwise I would put lightning rods on it. And it burned down entirely. It was a steel cage building. And that is a fact. You can look it up. You know our address. You can see that it happened this last year. So that did take up some of our time, and it resulted in quite a bit of changes and move. We still have that address, so we can still use that address. But we had to also restructure a lot of things. It ended up being overall good, but it's a lot of delays and a lot of time. In other words, it was not a good experience to have, but it worked out. So we had to also do a major move, and we've started the company over again on very similar structure, or in other words, a lot of stuff was falling upon me personally, and now we have more staff, which took training to get them to be able to make the products, and we had to do major runs of everything. So we would, instead of doing everything at once, we had to go through and make a whole bunch of one thing, move on to the next thing. This has taken us time to get revamped. So it's similar to what it was like in Idaho now, which were very good years until they weren't. And I don't need to repeat all that history. So also at the same time, I was invited into a group of world solutions, solving world problems such as pollution and energy. So that was quite demanding of attention, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It is a private matter. So right now we will be continuing operations full steam ahead, and I have been really busy, so I haven't been able to do the videos. I haven't been able to talk about things All good. So it's not, there's not any problems here. Anyway, one of the reasons why the schoolgirl kit is delayed beyond those reasons is that I wanted to do just as good of a job as these three last productions here. So I'm going to go over them a little bit, and then I'm going to explain the additions to this new kit. It's kind of like 4 major kits here. Each one of them is a book. One of them is just a book. And I'm going to talk about a new forum that I mentioned that we want to do and explain why it's not the same as what maybe you're expecting. But I'm looking for purity, I'm not looking for quantity. Alright, quality over quantity. So let's go over the kit 1 a little bit. So I made this just like the early forum to be a builder's kit, and that was a builder's forum. I'm talking about the Bedine monopole groups and other related groups. There was about 10 groups that I started, starting with 2004, 2005. I had done many groups, or several groups prior to that, way back before the internet. Yes, I'm that old. So I was doing these forums, or these online discussion groups for a long time. Had a lot of experience before I started the energy groups, and so I knew the way they worked and their weaknesses and benefits. So when we came in there, I tried to create order out of chaos. Everything seemed to be mostly a lot of chit-chat and a lot of trouble and controversy. So I started my own forums that worked reasonably well. I moderated them for quite a while until I was too busy with producing the technology and running businesses. More behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, whatever. So what we ended up doing is made a builder's group, where you had to build to be part of the group. You had to be participating physically in it. And that prevented a lot of these armchair people with their useless chat from wasting everybody's time. So some didn't like that, some got upset, but it went well. And then, until it didn't, until it was deleted, and I'm going to talk about bringing all that back, all that history that was deleted, back into this new kit. I'll explain that in a minute. So, this new forum that we want to do is not exactly that, but the best of that. So what we're going to do, all we have time to do, all I'm interested in doing, because I am not interested in chit-chat, is a waste of time. Go get a job, don't waste your time sitting around the internet all day chit-chatting, okay? Do something productive, don't get sucked in that vortex. And I've watched a lot of people ruin their lives that way. So anyway, what we'll do is, Lord willing, we'll try and do a forum here very soon, like starting maybe by the end of this month. This is January 2005, Happy New Year, whatever. We'll try and do a place, provide a place which everybody can see and benefit from, where people submit a replication of, say, this kit, this new kit here, or their own version of it. This is what we did before. I'm providing the kits to give an opportunity for people to be on the same page, work with each other, and have a standard that you can compare and contrast and whatever. So, and people asked for the kits, so I did them. I never really created kits because I thought it would be a good idea. I created them because people asked for them. All my products, every single one of my chargers were asked for and demanded. And that was, people were swearing at me for not providing something at the beginning. So I did. And I keep on doing it, and it's been very good, and I really appreciate all of you. It has been the most wonderful customer service experience, at least from you. You have been great people. I really appreciate. So I want to continue doing this no matter what happens to me, whatever I do. I care about the individual, and I want to do that, maintain these things. I don't want to get sucked into something big and not, care about the individual. So what we're going to try and do is have a place where you can submit, again, what we used to have, a folder for somebody that you can open up and see videos from them, documents, and pictures, and whatever they want to share about their experience. And this creates positive, real life science that is not controlled. It is open source in that sense. Real, what you've come to see here and there, unlike what you see in the controlled schools and industries with their fake science and their limited science, or perverted science, falsely called science, pseudoscience, partial science, which I want to really address. I'm still working on the introduction, which is the most important thing that I'll have ever written in my life, I think, unless it's too much for this kit. I think I'm really working on something, and I'll tell you honestly, the last 8 months of my life have been the most changes in my life spiritually, and I set out to do this introduction, which ended up being something I had to experience, trying to deal with the nature of science, how to do science in the most proper sense. And I struggle to find anything that really tried to cover this ground, which I'm going to try and tackle. So I'm not going to explain that yet, because I'm going to try and articulate this in this introduction. And I think what I'll end up doing with this kit, because I want to limit it to 100 pages, just like this kit was in this one. What I want to do is actually make it more reference, so maybe I'll have a larger writing on a subject that I'll bring up and point to, and then of course point to other things. So it was a major thing for me. I went through a lot of experiences that I was praying about, and God was showing me I had to go through, and I'm still going through it right now, and I will continue on the rest of my life, no doubt, but trying to quantify this or write it out is really involved. So it's not merely just a technical thing here. It's trying to grasp the nature of science itself and how to do science. Because I'm talking about bringing this to children. I mean, not really young children, but high school children and college and adults too. I want to encourage what science is meant to be. I want to encourage you to experience from the very beginning. So what I'm getting at is, I've done many meetings now around the world, and I've conversed with many people on the phone, thousands upon thousands of people. And what I've found is I'm trying to overcome the problems, the obstacles, and so get to the foundation of the problems. You can see these are all kind of foundational books. So whether I can accomplish that in this book or this kit, we'll see. Especially, I'm kind of limiting myself to 10 pages to do that, which I've written out many times in many ways, and it's now over 100 pages. So I'm trying to make this just as good and better than these kits here, which is kind of hard to do. Anyway, it's a history book too. Maybe I'll get into that in a little bit. So the forum will be planned to be like the early builders group, where hundreds of people had put their submission of folders of video. So we'll host it on a free place. We will moderate it. We'll take in the files, and then everybody can see that. There will be no public discussion, because that is filled with so many attacks and spam and all that. We won't have the time to do that, or the interest in doing that. No doubt people will talk on their own places, and that's fine. But what we will do is make that every person who has done a submission have access to each other on a private place, which will still have its limitations, because it will be moderated. And people can then talk to each other offline or outside of that area. But we want it, highly contributive, the least amount of chat. So it will retain all the important features of what we had with the other groups, including the private groups. Now I'm giving you access to the private groups in the emails that were in the private groups years ago. We've gone through them and picked out, as far as I can see right now, the best that we still have. There was a lot lost, and it's out there and I can find it, no doubt, but this is only all that I had time for. Special thanks to Gabe up in Lansing, Michigan, who has been a very faithful and generous customer and friend, who did a lot of work on helping with that. So what he did was take from a lot, pull from a lot of files, emails. There was thousands of pages or thousands of emails that we broke down to 600 pages, this size pages, full letter size pages, and size 10 font. This is going to be a tiny font. And I really don't want it any bigger than that book size. So we're looking to make a hardcover out of all of that. And what I'm going to do right now is go through it and index it all. And I may pull out a couple page ones there. So I was going to do that after this kit, but then I realized we've got to do it all at the same time. So I've been trying to think about that and decide upon that. So what I'm going to do is a 100-page kit like this. The book is 100 pages. All the hardware is done. We have much inventory on that now. So we're going to ship that out to anyone who's ordered very shortly. But I wanted to finish the book really and put it together. So if it takes a little bit longer for the book, I'll ship out all the parts for those who have ordered these kits. We have everything ready. And I didn't want to rush it. I needed to focus on it because it demands undivided attention. There's a lot to sort through. There are years and years of information. So it's comprehensive it's a history book, right? It's a science book. It's an education book, and like about education itself. And it's a reference book. So that's involved. It's controversial. I'm trying to make it as least controversial as possible in the drama side of things. The history, I'm trying to be more positive than minimize any kind of negativity. We won that battle in the end. They wanted to fight, they wanted a war, but they never got it. And so all that is over. Hallelujah. So anyway, the history will include primarily the early years, from 2003, 2004, 2005. There is some later stuff, but really the early years were the important years. In a PSYOPs, if I can use that term right now, you usually find the better information right at the beginning, and as it goes along it gets worse. So that the whole free energy movement, if you will, was highly controlled from the very beginning as a PSYOPs, or as a subgroup of the conspiracy PSYOPs, this conspiracy theorist movement itself. And as I've come to see, as a historian, as a researcher, right in the middle of this, and also the victim of it, I found this to be the case. That the major names were all agents, if you will, and some of them are still around. So, by their fruits you shall know them, right? They have to do enough good things to make it look like they're believable. So without going off into so-called conspiracy theory, I'm dealing with history here. And what I'm going to present is the good out of that. The goal was, I guess, to flood you with so much information and get you divided and confused and in controversy that you never really got around to benefiting from the technology. It was just to keep you in a divide and conquer state, distracted, overwhelmed, ever learning, never able to come to knowledge of the truth. It gets you focused on personalities, living legends that were not even original and that were not actually inventors in the proper sense of the term. So during those years, there was a lot of good information. I was able to plow through it and benefit from it and use the technology and demonstrate it in the real world. Most others were talk, and never producing anything but information. Did that benefit you? Some here and there maybe, but generally people wasted a lot of their time. The question is, to you who went through that, and there's a lot of you still around, was it better for you, and I say this to people, because usually men only come to my meetings, but sometimes women, I say, I'm not asking you, but I'm asking your wives, if they were here, would it have been better for you to have just bought some solar panels and spent your time more productively elsewhere? And they were like really thinking hard about that. So if that's the case, then what failed? Well, it was those who were so-called leaders as what failed. Now there are some people that just want to be a groupie and just want to do nothing, and maybe they don't really care about succeeding or going anywhere. But for me, I want to be practical. I want to see people in action. And we made real products, we made battery chargers, we made motors. People have used them throughout the world. And it was the first time in history that products were sold that did such things all around the world. And that came with a cost. It came with great cost to me personally. And in some ways I regret ever getting involved with this because of that. It's a pain I can't describe that I've gone through. And that's not financially either. So, in other ways, we'll still be able to do great good with this. I continue to do this with great pleasure. There's been many blessings. I've had so many wonderful friends. So I'm very grateful. Anyway, we want to do, so anyway, what I was getting at, kind of long-winded, we made a kit, again, we restarted again with the selfish circuits and loving paths. I kind of I had to survive for about 10 years with nothing. I lost everything, and more than you can imagine on a non-financial level. And then, so I then kind of resurfaced more 2016 with the selfish circuits loving paths idea. As I was going through some, spiritual changes. And that was really exciting. It seemed to really make a difference. And then 2 years later, in 2018, we did this kit, moving more into the high frequency, high voltage focus. And what I wanted to do was the same as I did with the original schoolgirl kits, and that was create an educational tool that you learn while you're working, physical and mental, not one or the other. And so some of the people race through it and they're looking for something to magically appear maybe, but I think, and I can tell by the way that people respond to it, whether they actually just skim through it or really sat in it. And some spent a couple of years in this, maybe some are still in it. Personally, I'm still in it. There's many things in here that get quite advanced in the back section. And so I will say that again, there's a lot of things in this. There's a lot of different things you can do in here that will totally supply all of your energy needs and are not terribly difficult. But I teach on being immersed, immersing yourself into it, focusing. When you actually do some of the experiments, without trying to just quickly go on to the next one, they're very simple. but have you thought about the implications? So that was satisfactory. Many people have said, I'm so glad you made me think in here. And because not only did they discover kind of what was in store for them if they did that, that was purposely planned that way, but they also found other things that I didn't even contemplate. And I expected that to happen. Instead of just being a follower, which is the problem with the schools today, they teach you just to memorize, and that memorizing is of false things many times, but they're not teaching you to think for yourselves, to be an independent thinker. So from there, we did the Don Smith book after that, and this basically took like a year of my life, of time and focus. And I spent a long time doing this index, because it's a systemized index, a systematic index, as I call it in the title here. And as far as I've seen, people are satisfied with this. There are many people that admitted that they did not know one of the most important points from Don Smith until they saw this in here, and then the videos, the video 1 and 2 in the series, and that was because of Alex's contribution. One of my friends, Alex, came to my meeting, and 3 in the morning or so, after we were sitting down eating some pizza, after one meeting, he said, well, yeah, Don Smith was my friend, and I was in his house, and oh yeah, I've got a lot of information you might be interested in. I was like, really? And that's what made this book possible. So this book is everything we had at the time that was publicly shared with Don Smith. Since then I have more information, not really enough to justify a whole new either book or second edition of this, but I did get finally the remaining videos, by the way, but they are not of very much quality. I think there was about 10 things that was beneficial, and I'll have to decide how to sort through with that. There was a lot of bad audio in the 1998 video. We have the notes in here that Alex took in from the meeting already, and actually some notes of that meeting are not in the video, I noticed. So they might have been part of the private correspondence that Alex had with Don at his house at that time. But anyway, I did get a hold of them recently. I can't talk about that right now. So I'm not going to say anything more than what I say here. I will see what we can do with that video footage. There's more video of the office video that has now been given to me. And that is interesting. It's more supportive of what he says elsewhere. And there is some embarrassing things that Don says in the way of the one video. It's embarrassing to him because there was some people that were disrupting the one meeting, and he had to repeatedly, like you see, he was upset because they were just kind of heckling him. And so with the failure of the microphone, and that it was decided at the time not to publish those videos, and I can see why. There was some embarrassing statements, I'll say, in him reiterating this losing oxygen claim that, to me, I feel discredits him as a geologist. And I included it in this book, that information on oxygen, because I don't censor people. When I'm publishing everything they did, I publish it, right? I don't change the words, like the whole, what's his name, who did the free energy book that's online. He was another agent who distorted and changed the truth from people, changed the words. My policy as a publisher, I have over 100 books from the past that have been republished through Alathian Heart Publishing House, which is my publishing house. We've never changed the words. We keep them true to the original, even true to the spelling. So I don't change Don Smith's words either, or anybody's words. The author needs to be heard in his own words. So what? So in that video, Don said more information. Actually, in both videos, he was talking more about that oxygen scare, that he thought the oxygen was going to run out on. He must have got a hold of some information. Nothing to do with his energy claims, but it. So people are trying to downplay Don, suppressing things, not willing to come out. No one's ever shown me proof of that. There's a little bit of evidence, but it doesn't amount to proof. So I will say that again, after all these years, having probably more knowledge than almost anybody of Don Smith's stuff, and having focused on it and replicated it, the man was reliable. And if you're looking to find fault, then you'll find it, I guess. There's mistakes. I've made the same kind of mistakes in meetings, on video, totally unaware that I even said something a certain way. I've made, both of us, me and Don, were not, trained in these matters that we're doing. We didn't go to school for them in a concentrated way. Like, we both were kind of hobbyists and made things work. And you got to take us at that level. I can get people to do things and know things and do the math when I need it. And that's what I've done. So I'm more intuitive than schooled in the schools. The schools didn't do me any good from the start. So anyway, so the Don Smith book worked out. I'm satisfied with it. Sure, I could spend another year tweaking it here and there and all that. There's some mistakes in it here and there, but it is what it is. There's only so much time I have. Then there was the next book, this next kit. Again, this one's really 100 pages, this one's like 89. And this one turned out really well too. It was a bit rushed at the end of the book, and it really needed to be 200 pages to do everything I wanted to do, but again, there was only so much time. This book has numerous things in it that you can do, a very powerful Don Smith and other types of systems in here. So I'm very satisfied with this. Going back to Don Smith now, the context of Don Smith is that he really presented in the context of the ham radio experimenters. It really wasn't for everybody else, other than maybe a testimony, and if you're interested in diving into that, you're really going to have to be that kind of person. To understand AC and DC and regular electronics, household electronics, for me, automotive mechanics, electronics, it's not for somebody like that. It is something that high voltage and high frequency can be very dangerous, and that was one reason why I did this kit. That's where Don said to start. So I wanted to prevent people from hurting themselves. So if you just dive into it and say you had something, what most people are just hoping to stumble across, but that doesn't work. And maybe until you kill yourself, then you find out that it worked at that point. So there's no forgiveness in it. You make a mistake, you could be dead. There's no joke about it. And so people who are used to wire clips and stuff, they pose a great risk to themselves. I have had experiences where they could have easily killed me. I could have been blinded. I still see a fireball on the side of my eyes here. Like, I'll never forget it. I mean, it's not physically present. I'm just saying I never forget that experience when I had a huge surplus of energy, let's just say. So anyways, it's serious, it's dangerous. So that's why I wanted on the small scale, to give a taste of that. This one we're starting to move into that, right? People want me to show everything at the meeting or something, and there are some real safety concerns. I show something, people start trying to copy it, and I do show things, and people have tried to copy it. So it's not like I haven't. But if they don't know anything about it or scientific procedure, they're really going to be hurting themselves. People say, well, that's up to them, it's their fault. Well, no. It becomes me to be careful about it. So we're going back to the little kit, and we'll kind of swing around, do back and forth, we'll do different things if we can. So with this new kit, like I said, what I plan on doing is go through that 600 pages. While I'm going through that, I will then take out from it what I feel needs to be in the kit itself. I'll reference those pages because they'll be page numbered. While I'm going through that book, to really prepare for the full book, I will index it. Where there's an important point, I'll mention the page number like I did with this Don Smith book. So that's the plan there. Now, lest you think the book is not written, it is already written, it's just a matter of condensing. So we have made, over the years, many beginner's instruction guides. There'll be me sorting through all of them, removing stuff which we had done before. It was a very big guide that got shortened down and reworded. And so after all these years I need to sort through that. So it's not that you have to go through that at all. What I plan on doing is having like the very basic schoolgirl turn on, let it run. Very basic instructions there. Without the second battery, the original one. You'll be able to do the simplified schoolgirl kit, which is this one, which has the SSG board with a lightning arrestor rather than a neon bulb. And I know that someone's copying everything I'm doing right now and trying to hijack what I'm doing. Don't appreciate it, by the way. Let's work together. Let's not try and capitalize on somebody else's work here. And that's what happened when I first introduced this. That's not contributing. That's being a troublemaker. So anyway, we'll have that with the same parts. Actually, these are the parts here for a reason. We'll have a couple of other different options here that you can do with the kit, with the parts provided. I'm not going to mention them and give the guy who's trying to copy me an advantage. So there's quite a few different things that you can do with this, with the parts provided. You can change them around. And then of course we have the aluminum rotor now available, and some other accessories that are optional. So what we'll do is give some basic instructions for each of these different modifications, and then talk about different things that I discovered and others have discovered in those early years. And then we'll give the extended test, which was where everyone started, I guess, but I'm not saying you have to do that. It demands a lot of time that people don't have the patience for anymore. Like, nobody has the patience to do science anymore, so they want 5-minute, that's all they can do. Even the people who were back then, I've noticed, have changed. Too impatient now to want to do long-term science. And I can understand not wanting to commit to it. So I will show that. And again, I'll try and tweak it. So then we'll, like I said, go through the things that people discovered and bring them up, reference it, quote the main idea, main concept in the book, reference it for more details or see where it was first posted. So I'm not sure if everybody will, if people will be interested in purchasing the physical book. It will be a physical book. I'm not really inclined to do a PDF, which maybe will irritate some people, but that PDF will just be posted on the internet and whatever. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. You can judge me however you want. I plan on making a book like this. It will not be very costly. It will be pretty much for cost. So I could print it maybe myself, but I think binding it would be an issue at 600 pages. So anyway, that's that. That's all I guess I can say for now. We're very busy doing many things here. We have more battery chargers coming out here, forklift chargers. We will continue with the motors. There'll be a new motor that I'm not talking about yet. You'll kind of smile when you find out what it is, I'm sure. And there'll be a question as, why has no one ever done that before? It's a mystery. And maybe you'll see why when you find out. So I will definitely show that at the next meeting. And whether it will be a kit by then, I think it will be. It's not going to be too hard to do it. Secondly, we have a Benitez kit. Some of you have seen that at the last meeting. I have not written anything up on it yet, so that's kind of holding that back. We do have inventory on it, and we will figure out exactly, like basically I have to decide right here. Now this don't take this the wrong way. I have to decide how much I share. Well, in two senses. One, how much I can really devote to that right now. I really don't have the time for it. It's enough for all the other stuff going on. But also how far it goes. So this is the Benitez systems. There's actually a couple of kits that we can do. So some of you have seen the beginnings of the one kit, and it's very important, just as I'm going to make this kit a historical kit. It was history 20 years ago. It made a difference. It actually, that kit that I did and those forums that I did resulted in Mythbusters doing an episode against Bedini, which was kind of comedy, I guess you could say it. That's all that show ever was. There was no science in that at all. It was pure comedy. Anyway, it resulted in many other things as well. So the Bonitas was 100 years ago, 1914 to 1918. We did find another patent, by the way, in 1940. I'm suspecting it might be a son of his instead. I lost track of the one Mexican man who was contacting me during coronavirus. I lost contact with him, and he was providing very interesting information, biographical information, and patents. So there's a Spanish patent that was found in the archives, and I have it, and I still haven't finished translating it because I don't know Spanish. That's another update. So there are several Benitez patents that we can do that I can make a kit from and replicate it. From the all-out capacitor inductor first addition to the patent, or whatever I called switch, it might have been switch 3 and 4 or 1 or 2, I can't remember, to what I call the switch 7, which I've demonstrated. And I use the word switch in the concept of the Tesla switch, so I'm calling it the Benitez switch, which is switching the batteries around, but rotating them over like an hour interval, not rapidly back and forth. So there's the final patent, which is kind of like a Don Smith, like where Don Smith got his concept from. Not that he knew that, but that's where it really originated from, which is sort of a Tesla system except with batteries. And then there's another system too. So we'll look at all that in the future, if that's what we have time to do. There are other things in the works as well, and I can't get into them right now. So I thank you for your patience and support, and look forward to seeing some of you soon, and have a great new year. Thank you.